Still, in my heart, she is now just that, and I know she senses the affectionate tie that binds the two of us. On quilting days, Aunt Lizzie and Sadie take turns staying home to cook and clean and look in on Dotty John, our elderly maternal grandfather, who still lives in the cozy Dotty house adjoining our farmhouse. But neither Sadie nor Aunt Lizzie will ever consider letting me stay behind, and they're rather outspoken that I should be the one getting out of the house, even though winter is surely creeping up on us. I don't have to remind them that I do have ample opportunity to leave the Abersall cottage and have a change of scenery, since I work for the English doctor Henry Schwartz and his wife Lorraine. Truth be told, sometimes I think Lizzie is concerned that too much of my free time is spent with fancy folk, though she brings this up only rarely. Probably in the back of her mind, and Dot's too, is Mary Ruth's leaving the community of the people behind for the Mennonite church, though I believe Dot has begun to temper his displeasure with Mary Ruth, speaking out less strongly here lately. Dotty John, too, says he's seen a whole other side to Dot in recent days. Secretly, I've been reading Mama's old Bible and searching out the underlined passages, coming to understand why dear Mama was so patient and kind, walking the way of true humility. Such qualities seemed to come second nature to her, as she had a servant's heart, just as I desire to have before the Lord. If I continue to follow diligently the path God has set before me, though sometimes as prickly as nettles when I find myself alone, I believe I will be most joyful. Patience is yet another virtue, one that grows stronger through the practice of waiting, and I've done much of that in recent years, come to think of it. I often linger near the schoolyard for Liddy Ann and Abe, whom I happily view as my own little ones. Young Abe, surrounded as he is by a house full of womenfolk, is dearly treasured by each of us. He brings such delight to our lives that it's truly painful to contemplate how terribly close we came to losing him along with Mama on the day of his birth. I must also admit to waiting with some measure of hope for a letter from Grasshopper Level, praying that one day Mama's cousins, Peter and Fanny Mast, might wake up and realize they have a whole family of folk who love them here, and it would be wonderful good, if the Lord wills, to get word from someone, anyone at all, telling of Jonas Mast and his faraway life and family. Most of all, I longingly wait for Sadie's 6-month proving to come to an agreeable end. Bishop Bontrager's choice of an older woman to oversee her during this time is Mama's dearest friend, Miriam Peachy. The proving means my sister can't be alone with a man for the time being, except male relatives. Of course, this means she's not allowed to be courted until next April. Still, though she's but 28, I can't imagine her even being interested in another man, or at least not for a good long time. So there is nothing to do but go along with the minister's stern decree and look ahead to a happier season, next springtime, when Sadie will be reinstated as a member in good standing, if she keeps her nose clean. We can only hope and pray she will, otherwise she will no longer be welcome in Dot's house or the community of the people. As harsh as her shunning was, what with no letters allowed all those years she was gone, I sincerely hope the severity of this second proving has not caused further distress in my widowed sister. Before long, the shortest day will darken the hours at both ends of the clock. The celebration of the Lord's birthday will come and go, and soon after, our little Abe will observe his 7th birthday. Then, too, my sister Hannah will bear her 3rd wee babe. All of this in the space of a few short days, Lord willing. For now, I'm content to push split logs into Mama's old wood stove and help Sadie and Aunt Lizzie cook and bake the family recipes, though in doing so, I am ever mindful of the constant ache in me, living life without dear Mama. Keeping busy is one way of getting by, I dare say. Although Sadie now shares our parents' former room with me, it is in the night hours, when the rest of the family is snug in their own beds, that I am most threatened by profound loneliness as a maidel. Nonetheless, I remember always to count my blessings, moment by moment, day by day. Part 1. The entrance of thy words giveth light. Psalm number 119, verse 130. Chapter 1. Early morning winds pressed a row of saplings nearly flat to the ground, and the stark contrast between a dreary sky and the eerie whiteness of a snow-sleek earth created a peculiar balance of light. Leah pulled her woolen shawl tightly against her as she made her way back to the house from the barn, where she'd gone to take a tall thermos of hot coffee to her father and brother-in-law, Gid. "'Tis terrible cold out," she told Sadie, making a beeline into the kitchen, eager to warm her chapped hands over the wood stove. Sadie looked up from Dot's favorite rocking chair, her needlework in her lap. "Suppose the men were glad for the coffee, huh?" Leah nodded. "I like seeing the smiles on their red faces. Besides, it's the least I can do for Dot and our new preacher, you know." She smiled. Truth was, Dot needed a bit of fussing over, still floundering at times without Mama. So did Gid, what with Hannah so great with child she could scarcely shuffle to the kitchen to cook a meal for their growing family. Both Lizzie and Sadie had been taking turns carrying hot dishes up to the log house on the edge of the woods, helping out some. "What do you think Hannah will have this time? Girl or boy?" asked Leah. "I'm sure Gid's hoping for a son, just as Dot did all those years back. But it wouldn't surprise me if Hannah has another daughter. Girls seem to run in the Abersol family," Sadie said. "Yeah, probably so." Leah didn't care one way or the other. So far, young Abe was the only male offspring, and a right fine boy he was. Hours later, when the time came to call the family together for dinner, Leah headed to the front room, where Liddy Ann was dusting the corner cupboard. Stopping to watch, Leah was struck by how sweet the girl's face was. Nearly heart-shaped, truly, and pretty blue eyes, much like Sadie's. She sighed, thinking what a handful Liddy Ann could be, yet at the same time she brought a wealth of affection to the whole family. Liddy Ann was especially attentive to young Abe, her only close-in-age sibling. "Sadie says the stew's ready," Leah said softly, so as not to startle her. Turning, Liddy Ann smiled. She laid the dust rag on the floor and fell in step with Leah, slipping her arm around her waist. "Our big sister has that certain touch, ain't so?" Liddy Ann sniffed the air comically. "I dare say her cooking ought to bring her another fine husband some day." "Now, Liddy," Leah chided her. "Well, Mama," whispered Liddy Ann, "you know what I mean." "Supposing I do, and Sadie does have that special something every cook yearns for." Leah went to the back door and rang the dinner bell, while Liddy Ann washed her hands at the kitchen sink. Quickly, Leah pulled the door shut, keenly aware of the bone-chilling cold, the bitter kind that crept up through long skirts and long johns both. The present cold snap was expected to linger for a while, according to the weather forecast, which wasn't always so reliable. Dot, however, took both the weatherman and the farmer's almanac quite seriously most days, especially here lately. Leah wondered if her father simply needed something to hang his hat on, but the weather was the last thing a body could count on, as unpredictable as winter was long. She went to help Sadie carry the food to the table. Along with stew, there were cornmeal muffins, a Waldorf salad, and a tray of carrot sticks, pickles, and olives, with plenty of hot coffee for the adults and fresh cow's milk for Liddy Ann and Abe. The children much preferred the taste of the milk when the cows were barn-fed instead of pasture-fed, so she knew they'd be draining their glasses tonight. By the time Dot and young Abe dashed indoors, got themselves washed up, and sat down at the table, Dottie John and Aunt Lizzie had come over from the Dottie house, commenting on the delicious aroma of Sadie's stew. Liddy Ann was swinging her legs beneath the long table, clearly restless, as Leah slipped in next to her on the wooden bench. "What's taking everyone